Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Were you ever, as a child, were you ever grounded? Do you ever ground your children now as a parent? Or have you ever taken away their cell phone or their, Xbox? Maybe you've just made them go in their room for a while. Well, that's what we're going to talk about on tonight's episode. Good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Bryan+Post. Hope everyone has had a fantastic Saturday. I was just watching this really interesting Netflix documentary. Hey there, Leslie. Good to see you too. I was watching this really interesting Netflix documentary on the Fire Festival, F-Y-R-E. These guys were promoting this big festival and it just went up in smoke, and I was looking at the owner, just thinking about, oh my gosh, that guy must have been under so much stress. And I don't know what's happened to it since, or to him, but it's always interesting to watch people being overwhelmed with stress and fear and anxiety. But anyway, I just want to talk a little bit about isolation, grounding, and removal of privileges, because I know it's very common. It's something we do commonly within the parenting matrix, and it comes in different names and forms. Parents, not parents, but professionals have in the reactive attachment disorder community been recommending for a long time that and it sounds abusive to me. It is abusive that you remove all the items out of your kid's room and you just give them a mattress. At one point, there was a professional recommending you just leave a pot in the room, and oh my God, it really. I'm just now started remembering some of these horror stories. They were telling parents to only feed your children a certain food for every single meal. Just like really, really inhumane treatment of children who are victims of trauma and who have survived trauma, and yet we end up doing very traumatic things to them all over again. And let me tell you something about grounding your children, isolation, removal of things. Hey Gina, all of these things, all of these practices, these approaches to children that are common within the parenting matrix are all negligent and without consideration of the child's regulatory abilities and even their experiences. Bessel van der Kolk said it very, very succinctly that when we are giving children consequences for their behaviors and ultimately punishing children for their behaviors, then what we are doing is saying that not only are you to blame for your behavior, but you are to blame for all of the trauma that you have also experienced, because the child's behaviors are manifestations of the trauma they've experienced. When we shift all of our focus onto their behaviors, then we are being negligent and without consciousness of the trauma and the early experiences that they've come from. And I used to say in my lectures, and sometimes still do, truly, for most of these children, and I'm talking about foster children, adopted children who've come from traumatic situations, biological children, and now are in safe, loving, consistent, predictable, nurturing homes, which are the homes that you all are creating. I used to say that there's nothing that you can do to this child that's any worse than what they've already experienced. And I truly believe that when you're operating within the realm of punishment And that's the confusion of operating inside the parenting matrix. Inside the parenting matrix, the practices that are advocated are not deemed punishment. They are deemed as teaching children a lesson, teaching them responsibility, loving the child, when in fact it's all about punishment, it's all about control, and it's all about suppressing negative behaviors. Well, the moment you move into that practice, then what you are doing is you are negligent of all of the child's experience and all of the child's trauma. And we have both a moral and an ethical responsibility to one another as human beings, and especially a responsibility as adults raising traumatized children, to be mindful of when we are becoming so overwhelmed and so stressed out by our children, these children who come from these places of pain, that when we are behaving towards them, oftentimes in less humane ways than we treat animals, then we have an ethical and adult responsibility to find some other place for that child. And so this just took a spin that I wasn't planning on going. For a long time in my career, I used to be like adamant against residential treatment centers. And I think it was because I was following a guru at the time who was really, anti-residential treatment, anti-group home, anti-out-of-home placements. And so I was that way as well, until I realized that in many, many situations, the stress and overwhelm has gotten so high that neither the parents or the children are experiencing any relief. It is an ongoing battle. And so the potential for an out-of-home placement can sometimes be a very necessary thing for a family to be able to have a break, a physiologic break, so that they can get restored. Just like my prayer for you every single night is that when you lay down, when you wake up, you're restored. We all have to be able to be restored. If you cannot be restored, if you cannot lay down, I had an exchange with a parent through our private Facebook group she was in Messenger, that her children had suffered some horrible trauma around night, and no one was sleeping. That for the whole family to be in that level of anxiety and fear and stress, it makes it impossible for anyone to be able to move into healing. You can. Christy posted an Instagram post under Post+Institute today and said you can't heal when you're hungry. And I think that's more than just physical. You can't heal when you're emotionally hungry. And we get emotionally hungry when we are stressed and we don't have any interruption in that stress. We become emotionally hungry, and you can't heal when you're in that place of emotional hunger. And so there have been times recently actually, where I have said, you guys really should consider, and here's my thing. When I suggest to parents that they should consider an out-of-home placement for a period of time in order to everyone to be able to calm down, to get replenished and get restored, and then come back and try it again, I'm not saying send the kids off to some boot camp where they're going to get punished even more. And I used to show in my lectures this clip of Maury Povich and these scared, stressed out, overwhelmed children. And the answer to that was, and I think I'm gonna do that on my Inside the Parenting Matrix show one of these days. The answer to that is to punish these children by sending them to this boot camp, and this drill sergeant comes out and he's telling these kids, you will do this and you will do that. And that's not what needs to be happening, because these children deserve to be able to have some restoration in their lives also. They require the ability to feel safe and secure. And so, yes, if as parents you are just so overwhelmed to the point that you need a break, and that's okay, and that should not be considered a bad thing. The African proverb says it takes a tribe to raise a child, and it's unfortunate that there's not more support. And Christy and I have actually talked here recently about, training, doing a respite program program training and getting creating a group of trained respite providers so that parents can have a break and kids can go to places, loving, safe, secure homes. And that way, when the family comes back together, they come back together and they're refreshed and they're restored and they're ready to try it again. But more than anything, the parents are refreshed and restored and ready to try it again. Gina says, how do you always know exactly what I'm going through? Oh, Gina, you always speak to exactly what I need to hear. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that it's these words speak to you, Gina. If it speaks to you, then that's why I show up, and that's good. I don't want parents to feel guilty when they get to the point that they can't do it any longer. I feel like you just have to believe that you're doing what you need to do in order to get some relief, get some restoration, get some regulation, and then you're not giving up. See, here's the thing. When you're operating inside the parenting matrix, everything is created as this outcome. Everyone's focused on this outcome. It's either the behavior, which is this outcome, or it's this child getting to 18, which is this outcome. Everything's so outcome focused. But when you operate outside of the matrix, you realize that it's the process. And you hear that all the time. It's the journey, not the destination, right? Well, it's the process, not the outcome. The process dictates the outcome. So having to send your child to residential treatment or anywhere else, group home, whatever it may be. I'm not a big fan of RTCs. There's really only one in the country that I'm really familiar with. Well, there's a couple that I'm really familiar with that I feel like, really aren't, they're there to create regulation and mindfulness for the children. You're not giving up on your child. You're just doing what you need to take care of yourself, so that you can reorganize and reorient, and then you can go at it in hopefully a different way and not in the same way. Vicky says, put my daughter in a PMIC, and I'm supposed that's a residential treatment, for several months with the hardest decision of my life, but necessary. We had to get a break from each other. Sometimes it's got to happen. It just has to happen, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. And so if any of you are at that place of struggle, and like I said, I've just recommended probably in the last month to at least 2 different families I've talked to that maybe you need a break, and this is a viable option for you guys to consider. I just want you to, when you come back or during that time while your child is gone, I want you to get a workout schedule going. I want you to start working out. I want you to, get a prayer schedule going. I want you to start writing goals. I want you to start eating right. I want you to get yourself right, because you are the healing instrument. So it's not about sending your child off and waiting for them to get fixed and be sent back to you fixed. That's some inside the parenting matrix mumbo jumbo that professionals kind of perpetuate to parents. It's about sending your child away so they can have a break, so you can have a break, and so then you can restore and re-strengthen and get ready to bring them back into your nest and be a stronger, wiser, more regulated parent moving forward. And so during that process, get yourself together, dig in, do the hard work. And I was just listening to something the other day. I think it was actually just this morning. I'm always listening to educational stuff. It was Seth Godin, an interview he was doing. And he was just talking about how there's so much out there these days that's presented as this quick fix. In our industry, in our field, you and I as parents and adoptive foster parents, professionals, social workers, there's always the pill. And then if there's not the pill, there's this book that's the fix, or there's this new therapy method that's the fix. There's this, and I've been doing this 20 years, so I've seen tons of these different therapies with these different acronyms and these different medications. And now we're putting, what are we putting, the being a man in the DSM-4 now or something? It's something weird. I don't even read that kind of stuff. I don't follow that kind of stuff. But we're always looking for this quick fix, and there just simply is no quick fix. This is a life process. Everything that I talk to you all about, these are not things, I want you to understand, this is not stuff it is, I speak to you to help lessen the stress and lessen the fear in your home. I speak to you to help strengthen the relationship, strengthen the regulation, strengthen the bond, generate more love so that you can go into the next day and the next day and the next day. It is not to fix anything. I believe and I have faith that you creating more love in your home and creating a stronger relationship and being able to step outside of the parenting matrix and move out of all those fear-based practices, I believe that's what heals your child's brain. And not only that, but it's the relationship that heals your child. You're always going to be the parent of your child. That is never going to stop. It doesn't stop at 18. You will continue to be the parent of them until you take your last breath. And so thinking that there's some quick fix, that's inside the parenting matrix stuff. You want to take an approach that says, I want to create relationship with my child because this is lifelong. And I always want to be able to influence my child. And not only that, but I want my child, and this is where I want you guys thinking. I want the things that I model for my child and the relationship that I create for my child, I want that to carry forward to my grandchildren. I want that to carry forward to my great-grandchildren. We're always talking about leaving legacies of money for our children and leaving heirlooms. We got this little egg. We're going to pass this down from generation to generation. What about a legacy of relationship and love and passion and commitment? I mean, what about a legacy of mindfulness and chill and openness and acceptance? What if we pass that down and all of a sudden your children, based on your modeling, are interacting with their children in a love-based way and creating children who are emotionally stronger? And because they're emotionally stronger, they think for themselves. They don't follow the crowd. They don't just go along with what they're spoon-fed through the media. They become independent thinkers and they make good choices. And they have children. They have children. Your children have children who were raised the same way. Now that's a legacy. That's a legacy. That's what I'm talking about. That's truly love-based parenting, and that's changing the generations, because we know the good book says the sins of the forefathers would be passed down to the third and fourth generations. And we want to be the ones, that generation, who changes that lineage. So Catherine says mental health is not a quick fix. It is a lifelong journey. It is. Mental health is definitely a lifelong journey. It is important as physical health. It is important as your spiritual health. It's important as your financial health. It is just as important as everything else. And so making the time for the mental health, to work on the mental health of your family, and it's not even mental. It's body-mind. Candace Pert said the body and the brain and the body are not separate. She referred to it, she coined it as the body-mind. It's body-mind health. And it's being a whole being. And so that's it. It's Saturday night. I hope you guys have a relaxing evening. Have fun, whatever you do. Watch a movie, snuggle up, turn the lights down. Makes me think of that Bob Marley song, Turn the Lights Down Low. It's a nice song. Check it out if you haven't. But enjoy your Saturday, guys. Big Papa loves you. And I hope you get some good rest tonight and wake up. Tomorrow's going to be a wonderful Sunday. And do something amazing. Tomorrow, do something your children don't expect. And see if you can make it the most love-filled day that you guys have had in a long time. And so that's all I've got. I love you. We'll see you tomorrow.